We are officially live. Welcome everyone to the first of a three-piece series under the name From Good to Great. We have Henrik Wenøe, founder and chief operator, master trainer at Acuity World here to share his insights with us on how personal leadership can help all of us really to achieve great things. My name is Frederik and my role today is to kind of dissect and figure out ways to get all that beautiful knowledge from Henrik's head out into the public. And hopefully there's a bunch of people sitting out there that can grasp on and hold on to these tools and techniques. First off, Henrik, the title, From Good to Great. Can you put a few words to it? From good to great, what is the difference and why are you making this distinction?
I think a lot of people have this idea that if they want to sign up for a program, there's something which needs to be fixed. And I think actually that's not my experience when I meet people. That there's much more that actually works very well than things that doesn't work. So I think, and that's also where we basically start in our personal leadership program, is really finding out who you are when you are actually at your best when you're working. And then from there, we add skills and strategies which can help you excel in the arena where you want to excel.
The skills and strategies, those are the ones that we want to get into today. And this is kind of a different context than usually when you do these live sessions and webinars that you've done. You've invited me to do this as a conversation, and I'm very happy that I get to do that. But maybe if there's somebody in the audience that is thinking, maybe I'm good enough already, what would your answer be to that?
I say most likely, yes. It get good enough in relation to what? And I think a lot of people, they tend to measure themselves against everybody else. And I think most likely there are people out there in the world who are good enough in relation to what they want. So yeah, that can be right and that can be not right, but it's really about what is it that you want. And that's pretty much also where we start when we invite people into the personal leadership program. Is we start out by asking them, what is it that you want from this?
Okay, so this is the personal leadership and the definition. Before we dive into that and the leadership skills and all the applications and the no fluff that we promised everybody out there, maybe there are people sitting in the audience that doesn't know you already. So can you give a short introduction before we dive into all of this about yourself and your journey and what motivated you to start Acuity World?
Yeah, I think what basically motivated me was that in the late 90s, I discovered this whole toolbox called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
What a word.
And I just found that it was fascinating. And in a way, it helped me regain the joy of learning. And then I met some trainers and saw, wow, they were actually having a life where they were doing nothing but NLP. I said, well, maybe that could be something for me. So I think the reason why I started running these programs back in 2001 was that at that time I had already been in my own practitioner, in my own master program. I was a certified trainer from Richard Bandler in US and some other trainers as well. And I came to this realization, if I wanted to really, really be good, I could no longer just attend more trainings. I needed to start to actually train others to get to the next level. And that was my first motivation to actually begin doing these trainings.
It's always the best way to learn things. If you have to convey that information to somebody else that needs to be able to grasp and hold on to it. Okay, well that was a cool short introduction. If you want more of all of this and all the stories that Henrik got in store, then we actually did a three-piece podcast series as well called the True Intent Podcast, where you can hear much about the stories about that. But the topics for today is leadership skills on a generalized perspective, to discover what leadership skills are essential for success in sales and leadership especially, and then some real world application where you can go home and get a sense of what these leadership principles can do for you in your daily work to achieve better outcomes basically. And then we're going to dive into the personal leadership program, which is the program that you've been teaching for almost 3 decades now, and it's really honed in the skills that you were just telling us about. So to kick things off, leadership skills. How would you define leadership? And why is it relevant, or personal leadership, and why is that relevant for people watching?
I don't know if it's relevant because I don't know who is actually out there listening.
No.
I think again, it's relevant if you want to actually lead yourself and lead others, and very often you need to make a decision in your life. Do you want to be a leader, or do you want to be led? And I think both things can be okay. Both things can be perfect. It really depends on what you want. For me, again, the idea that somebody else should lead me doesn't resonate so well with me as being in a position where I can lead myself and lead others. I think maybe that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I have met a lot of people who are totally okay being led.
But there's also a lot of people that often complains about not having the best leadership, and because I don't mind being led as long as I'm have a feeling that I'm being led in the right direction. So
Yes.
how would you define good leadership?
Wow. Again, for me, again, it depends on which context you look at. In the context of a Acuity world, we are active in business, and I think I would say that good leadership is about really helping people perform at a higher level than they can do without you as a leader.
Okay. Well,
So because again, otherwise there's nothing to pay you as a leader, you can say. So in a way, you are there to help people to really, in a way, excel, do more than they could do if you were not there. And some people they hear that as a very provocative statement. That's not how I mean it. I mean it really that if you really want to be a leader of value, you are a person who can help people do what they truly want to do but couldn't do themselves.
Okay, so if we take leadership from a very broad context, and then we put that into the context that is the topic of today for sales leaders and professionals within business, how do you believe that these leadership skills specifically translate into the success in the sales roles? And can you maybe share examples of where strong leadership made a significant impact?
Wow, that's a very big yes, and yes. I think we see that every day, and we also see the opposite. But I would like to take a step back, because I think when I look at very strong leaders, for me again, I see that they have three things in place for them. They first and foremost have some technical skills. They know something about what they're doing.
Of course.
And then they have strong business acumen. So they are able to understand the financial drivers which are within the system they're operating. Because if they cannot translate their technical insights into money, so to say, it's very difficult to know whether what you're doing is creating value or not. And then finally, good leaders also have very strong personal and social skills. They understand how to lead themselves and others. And so for me again, I think having all these three things is what makes a good leader. What we focus on in our personal leadership program is mostly the third part. It's really to refine and add and improve the personal and social skills. And I think that's also why we can attract leaders from many different industries. Because again, most of the people who show up in our programs already have good technical skills. They have good business acumen. They have decent, maybe even good human skills, but have come to the understanding that if they really want to take their performance to the next level, they need to refine the way they lead themselves and other people.
Okay. And for those aspiring to tap into some of this, these leadership abilities that you believe more people should tap into, other than the technical and the business acumen, where should they start?
I normally always recommend that you start with yourself. And for me, that's also the first thing which comes to mind when I think about personal leadership. It's really about having the capability of setting your own agenda, understanding your own intention, so that when you wake up in the morning, what you're focusing at is really what you want to focus at because you have decided that. Not because some emails show up in your inbox or because somebody called you, because now you're being led. So I think again, you need to have a clear idea about who you are, but also what you want to achieve. When that's in place, now in a way you have the right to start to influence and lead other people.
Okay.
Helping them being who they are and doing what they want to do, so that they together with you can create the results all of you want.
So figuring out what I want to do, is that a question I ask once in my life and then I have it all covered and then I just go, or how do you ask and answer this question?
I think again it's you can ask it on many different levels, and I think it's a continuous process. You can ask it, from time to time. You can evaluate your life and say, wow, am I actually on the right track?
Yes.
Where would I like to see myself in 3 to 5 or 10 years? But again, also here, it's something which happens every day, because we live in a dynamic world, and things happen, and in a way you need to adjust. You see, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week. So that you're sure that you stay on track. It's like being out on the ocean, sailing on a boat. It's not enough that you just have set out the course and then sail, because there are current, there are wind and things. So you need to take that into account.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, and then again also, sometimes if you want to really master personal leadership, it's also about re-evaluating the outcomes you set out for yourself. Are they still important? Because sometimes, you learn things, you get to a position where it's the right thing to update your outcomes and then go in a different direction. That can happen.
Okay. And in terms of making sure that you're answering this question, so we get up in the morning, we figure out, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
What if that doesn't resonate with the reality you're in, or how do you make sure that you are answering that questions on the basis of what actually is important for you and not other people's expectations?
And again, it's a simple question to ask. It's not so simple to answer, because it's really, to be able to do that, you need to be able to ask that question from the right starting point.
Yes.
And that's why very often when we talk about personal leadership, we are not focused so much on the doing first. We are much more focused on the being. And basically, the way we think about it and talk about it in the personal leadership program, you can be in the open, the excitatory, the green state, or you can be in the inhibitory, the negative, the red state. And again, when I meet people who are in a stressed state where they are basically in an inhibitory neurological state, and they ask themselves, what do I want? They always come up with the wrong answer, because what they basically want is to not be where they are right now.
Yeah.
So that's where you are not finding the right answer to that question. So basically what we teach people when it comes to personal leadership is to first and foremost lead themselves to be who they are when they're truly themselves, where they're okay, when they're in this, what we call the green state. And from there, you have access to hearing the answer when you ask yourself what you want. Because from this position, there's nothing you need, and therefore you can get access to what you actually want. And it doesn't have to match reality, because very often if you make reality guide the answer to that question, you will very often come up with the wrong answer.
Yeah, because if you ask it on the predication that you're stressed, then you can't access what you truly want. What if you're stressed all the time? Then what should you do? You can never answer that question truthfully, or what?
I think I don't believe that anyone is stressed all the time.
No.
But again, for people who find themselves being stressed,
yes,
it's important to be able to recognize that from this starting point, I cannot get to high quality answers.
No.
So instead of looking for answers when you're feeling stressed, then start out by doing something which bring you into an emotional state where you're actually okay. And there's different techniques, there's different tools of how to do that.
So just watching your favorite show, or what should you do to get into the green?
That could be, or it could also simply just be have a walk, or it could be to know how to basically impact your own system. This is where we are starting on the personal leadership program, is to basically teach people to be okay for no good reason. And when you know how to do that, then you can start to set goal and decide where to go next. Because from that position, you can set the right direction. What happens in most coaching programs, in most leadership programs, people think they are there to have fixes for their problems. And that just keep people in the wrong loop again and again and again. Because if you ask yourself from a problem what you want, you will always come up with the wrong answer. And I think this is how most people live their life. Oh, this is wrong, what should I do? I should fix it. But if you define an outcome from a problem, you will always go back to status quo. You will never move on. And for me, that's one of the core ideas in what we're doing when it comes to personal leadership, is to really show people that you're okay. That you don't have to be anybody else than who you are right now. So relax, goddammit. And because from this starting point, you get access to actually understanding what you truly want, and then you can start to think about, consider what to do to achieve that. And now you will start to have this sense that you're actually alive and doing something meaningful. And that's basically what we teach leaders to do for themselves, so that they can do the same for their employees, their colleagues.
Nice. So for those out there aspiring to strengthen their leadership abilities, are there any particular skills that you believe are more foundational than others, if we should go into practicals?
Again, in our personal leadership program, we focus on 4 different topics overall. We focus on what we call personal leadership, this capability of actually being able to be okay for no good reason. Then there's communication, and we call it personal communication because it's both the way you're communicating with yourself, but also the way you are able to communicate with the people around you. So that's important. Then there's personal coaching. And again, for me, I see it both ways. It's both the capability of coaching yourself and coaching other people to create higher performance. And then finally, personal influence or personal sales, the capability of interacting with others in a way where they want to actually do things with you because they want to do it. I think when you have these 4 elements, which is basically also the headline for each of the 4 modules in PLP1, then I think you have a really good, solid foundation for doing personal leadership, not only for yourself, but also for your team and your colleagues.
Okay, so these are the 4 elements that you need to train and understand in order to lead yourself and others. Can you give us, you've done this for 30 plus years, can you give us some examples of how you've applied these principles to achieve better outcomes?
Oh yeah, first and foremost, if we go into the personal leadership, you can say that there are different techniques and tools we apply from the NLP toolbox. There's some examples of how to, there's tools which can basically teach you how to lead the way you're thinking, so that it actually leads to the behavior you want. So it's not enough to think the right way. It's not enough to think the right thing if you not think them the right way. And then you can say, whoa, what do you mean by that? For instance, if you envision that there's something you would like to obtain, and you see this as a very small black and white picture, maybe it doesn't look as attractive as it needs to be for you to actually do what you have to do to get it. So maybe if you become aware and maybe change that picture to a bigger picture in full color, maybe even in as a movie.
This is a visualization exercise.
Yes, but where you understand not only what to visualize, but also how to visualize it. So it actually draw you in, so that it starts to actually impact what you're doing. So I think people, they can think the right thing, but if they don't think it the right way, they don't get the outcomes they want. And I see that every day. So that's some of the things we teach people, is to become aware, not only of what they're thinking, but also how they think it, so that you can actually start to practice thinking in a more effective way.
I'm come to think about belief. How does belief fit into this? Because when you visualize the small box of the desired future, it spoke to me as like maybe we see it as a very small box because we don't actually believe that we can achieve it.
I think that's the effect it have, that having the small black and white picture doesn't create a solid belief that is important or that is actually desirable. Whereas if it's a bigger picture, full color, maybe even in motion, it creates a stronger pull, which you translate into, wow, I can do it, and therefore you will start to actually do it.
You did like this, a stronger pull, it was almost within your body being pulled to it.
Yeah.
So can you tell a little bit more about the emotional charge that is behind this, and maybe if we can touch a bit upon it, like the neurological explanations of the distinction that you make in the way that you teach leadership and coaching?
I think for me, everything starts in the body. If you cannot feel the pull, it's not there. If it's only in your head, nothing happens. So I think, what we cover in the personal leadership program is to really bring into awareness what for most people is totally unconscious, out of awareness. So that you can start to actually influence it. So the way we think about it when we talk about personal leadership, it always starts with there's something you would like to achieve, there's something you would like to obtain. And to do that, there's some behavior which needs to be in place. So we train and help you get optimal behaviors. But that's not enough. You also need to understand what and how to think about it. And to do that in an effective way, you need to be in the right emotional state. And what creates your emotional state is your physiology. So basically what we teach people in the first module is how to impact their physiology. So it helps people basically being in the right emotional state, which allow them to not only think the right thing, but also think it the right way. So it promotes them to actually do what they have to do, so they obtain and get what they want to get to. And this is why we talk about this be-do. It starts out by you being okay, being yourself, being at your best. And from this starting point, all the other things tend to follow.
And it's the vision of what you truly want that gives you that feeling of being okay?
No, again, it can be the vision, but it can also simply be how you feel in your system.
I do a lot of yoga in the morning to kind of make sure that I am present in the moment, not trying to think back of all the problems I used to have, or maybe that I'm not going to achieve the things I want in the future, but I'm just here right now. And that gives me a sense of calm, I'd say.
I think from this position, I think it would be really useful to think back on all the good things you have achieved, so that can project a future which actually is worth living.
So it's okay to look back as long as you don't look back on the stuff that didn't work.
You can do whatever you want. It's your life.
Yeah.
It's always come back to what you want.
Yeah.
And I think most people fuck up their own lives by thinking the wrong way, because they're in the wrong state, because they don't know how to actually lead themselves on a physiological level. So again, for us, personal leadership always starts in the body, because that's the way you create the right emotional state. When you have the right emotional state, now you can think in a more productive way. and that tends to lead to better actions, which again lead to higher quality outcomes. So most people are not in control of what they are thinking and how they are thinking because they are not in control of their emotional state, because they don't know how to lead themselves on a physiological state. So all of these things is something you need to really master if you want to be a leader. If you cannot do this, it would be irresponsible to take up a leadership position, because you have an enormous impact on other people's life. And if you mentally fuck up yourself, how do you believe that you can lead other people to achieve something useful? So there's a lot of leaders out there in the world who should never have been, or who should not have been a leader yet, because they become leaders for the wrong reason. They become leaders because they don't feel that they are okay. They don't feel that they are sufficient. But they have this idea that if I become a leader, then I'm okay. But that seldom happens. They are basically no longer just fucking up themselves, but also the people around them. And I think this is why, that's why I think a lot of people work for leaders who are basically not bringing value to the table. And our ambition with the personal leadership program is really to help leaders come to a position where they can create real value for their team members, so that they can go and create values for their customers or their colleagues.
Sounds like you need a lot of interpersonal skills here.
You need to have intrapersonal skills. So you need to understand how to manage and lead yourself, and you need interpersonal skills, because otherwise it's very difficult in the world we are living in today to create value all by yourself. You need to understand how to interact with people, because I think I saw an example of a person showing an old-fashioned pencil and said, nobody in the world can actually make a product like this, because you need somebody to run a forest, because you need the wood. Then there's the thing inside, the paint and everything, the iron which hold the rubber at the end. It's a very complex product. Hundreds of people need to go into the process of making that pencil. And that can only happen if you understand how to interact with other people.
So it seems like you need a lot of information to be able to lead. How do you gain that information? Like knowing each and every individual, making sure that you can talk to them in the right way, figure out what they want, and continuously help them move towards that goal.
There, I think we introduced a very simple framework, because otherwise I think it would become too overwhelming. And it's basically a 4-step model. Where we say, so whenever you want to lead yourself, or whenever you want to have an impact for your team and the people around you, or before you do this, maybe okay, what is the purpose of the dialogue we are having? You need to have that in place. Set a frame. So, are we discussing how to develop this new product? Are we discussing how we can help this client, or are we discussing about what kind of Christmas dinner should we have this year? So
an agenda for the meeting.
You need to have a frame in place. When that's in place, then you ask the first question. That's basically what's working. So what's already in place in relation to this? And by asking this first question, you basically understand what you don't have to fix, but what's already in place. And it does several different things. First and foremost, it creates this sense that, wow, we don't have a problem. Things are working. And it helps people to relax and get out of this red state and get into the green state, where they emotionally and mentally function better. And when we understand this, we also understand, again, well, we don't have to spend more time at, because it's already okay. Then we move on to the next step, which is really about asking, what do we want? And why do we want that? And how would we know that we have actually achieved it? And when do we want to achieve it? So that you know what you are aiming for, but also understanding how you know you have achieved it. We talk about this as building a future memory. And then we take the information from that future position and use that to discuss this third step, which is really about what needs to happen to make this happen. And who needs to do what, so that we can believe with some confidence that we actually achieve what we want. Because now the different actions which are being defined from the desired state. So in a way it helps people focus on what's actually necessary to focus on, and not everything. And when you have agreed on this, now you can go to step 4, which is basically about where do we start? What is the first thing we need to do so that this movement can be put into place? And when you do that, you tend to create really good meetings and interaction with other people. Because if every time you interact with yourself, know where you are, know where you want to go, know how you want to get there and where to start. If you have the same thing when you interact with your team, when you have the same thing when you interact with your customer, then you will set up systems with less friction and with more movement. And that's basically what we teach people in our personal leadership program. But to do this well, you need to understand how to interact with each individual, because people are different. So to ask this question, what's already working? You need to be able to ask that question in many, many different ways, depending on the situation, depending on the person in front of you. When you ask, what do you want? Again there, you need to ask that in very different ways, because people are different. That's why we are not talking about so much situational leadership in our program, but much more personal leadership. Because we want you to be able to tailor the way you lead other people so it fits each individual. And when you do that, you remove the friction in the system.
Yes.
And in a way, you become more productive and they become more productive. And you basically become able to create much more value for the system of which you are part. And I truly believe that people who always know where they are, who always know where they want to go, who have a sense of what they need to do to get there, and also know what would be the right place to start, will live good lives and productive lives.
You know, me personally, I've been on the first part of the personal leadership program, and I remember the questions being asked on that day really gave me a unique perspective, and I was inspired to be better at answering those questions. Because what do I want is a question I've been asking myself for a long time, and I didn't really know how to access the right information to what I know or want or would like to happen.
It's typically because people start from the wrong starting point. They're starting from believing that they have problems or there are problems. And if you start from that starting point, you will never find the answer.
Because your brain simply cannot.
When you start with and from a problem, the only thing you can come up with as something you want is to not have the problem.
Yes.
But to not have the problem is not the same thing as having the life you want. And I think this is why most coaching models are fucking people up faster than they can do themselves. Simply because the coach or the leader asked the wrong type of questions. And they don't even know it.
Okay.
They think they are kind. They even believe that they are helpful, but very, very often it's not very productive.
So when we talk about asking questions, obviously it's in relation to talking with customers, clients, but also internally with your own team, your boss or your colleagues. If we should put it into the context of, let's say, sales, do you believe that the approach that Acuity World implements is vastly different from all the other sales techniques and methods out there, like Bela, Spin, Challenger, and all the different frameworks? Or can they build on top of these? How are they connected if they are, and how do you view this?
Oh, it's a big. I think again, when you look at all of these different frameworks, solution selling, strategic selling, challenger sales, gap selling, Bala, and so on, I think all of these different models bring something of value to the table. I think in our approach, we do solution selling, we do value selling, we do consultative selling, we challenge our customers.
Okay.
We actually are not focusing on features, but so I think we do all of that, but where we really do something different is that we don't start from problems.
Okay.
Because we don't believe that starting from problems help customers get what they truly want. Because when you start from problems, they can only tell you that they don't want the problem. And that will not lead to uncover what they truly want. And this is why I believe that we bring something very unique to the field of sales. And I think, and what we teach people in our personal leadership program is basically the same ideas, but in a leadership context. So we teach leaders to teach salespeople to create more value for their customers, because we teach you how you can teach your people to actually have higher quality conversation with your customers.
So that you get better information.
Yes, we help you help your salespeople think in a higher quality way, so that they can go and do the same with the customers. And I believe that the better thinking the customers have, the easier it is for them to tell you what they truly want. And when you know that, you can much faster judge if you can truly help them. And if the answer is yes, and you can get them what they truly want, they will end up perceiving that they are getting much higher value working with you than people who keep coming asking them about problems. So I think really so I think our ambition with the personal leadership program is basically to help you be your own sales trainer with your own team at home in your organization. So that you actually are creating real value, because you set your people up to create real value for the customers.
Yes. And this is just to round it up with that point, is the true value of sales, where and we started out by saying that you actually help people achieve their dreams and do great things. Because they want to do what they are doing what they want to do. To figure out that this is the right path for them, and not predicated upon so many other factors of not feeling good enough, having a bunch of problems, and that's what creates the fulfilling way of going to work.
Because we are working from a starting point where there are no needs. There's only wants.
It's a paradigm shift.
It's a very deep paradigm shift. And it leads to, I would say, people being able to access a much more fulfilling life, where they can actually start to enjoy life on a much deeper level, not because they are happy, but because they create real value for themselves, their colleagues, and their customers. And I believe that if you can have a life where you're actually creating value for yourself and others, you don't need to be happy. But a lot of people, they're seeking happiness because at least that can remove the pain of not making something useful. It's like eating a painkiller. So I hate happiness. I really much more go for creating humans who are truly productive, who can truly create sustainable organizations and really true healthy profit.
I wonder if you can share examples of teams, organizations that you've worked with that might serve as kind of an insight for the audience to maybe connect with a little bit in terms of how this actually looks in practice.
I think we have been working with many companies within healthcare, companies producing equipment for doctors. We have worked a lot with people who work within the field of pathology, and very often when we start out asking the people we are training in those organizations, why are you actually working in this organization? Very quickly they realize that, wow, I think if I do a good job, there will be a pathologist in Norway who can actually help his patient more effectively. So I'm actually helping my customer, helping the patient surviving or living the life they want.
So you actually help them to connect to the company vision or mission more than it's just words on the wall, but a feeling of why they do what they do.
We makes it personal.
Yeah.
And I think because now their motivation for doing what they want to do are much more eccentric. Yeah. It's much more because they want to do it rather than some kind of corporate goal, which are often not very motivating for an individual salesperson.
And the idea is not that you can start that process with the employees, but the idea that it is obviously the leadership of the organizations training the trainer principle so that they can make sure that all the individuals are moving in a cohesive unit as part of the mission of the company.
Another example was we were working with a telecom company some years back for the leaders of their shops. And again there we talked to them, what is the real purpose of being in a tele shop selling tablets and telephones? And at first they were thinking about, oh, it's nice technical gadget, but what they realized when we took it a step further was that they realized that, wow, we are actually helping people living a more fulfilling virtual life. Because a lot of people today are connected to relatives, to grandkids via their iPads or their iPhones, and if it's not really working for them, they lose contact. But if they can help this person really get the right tools so that they can connect with the people they love and like, you're actually creating value on a much deeper level. And it also have an impact on what question you ask, because when a person come into your tele shop, you don't ask them, what phone do you want? You ask them, what kind of life do you want to live? Who would you like to be communicating with, and when and how? You understand? And suddenly, it's a way. It's a much more fulfilling life to be a salesperson in a tele shop than just pushing this model or that model.
Pushing products, as we started by saying.
The same thing is we have been working with a global hearing aid provider. Same thing. Again, a lot of people are actually not having hearing aid because they don't like the idea. But I think again, an audiologist who really do their job well can help people reconnect to life. Because if you cannot hear, you cannot interact. And if you cannot interact with the people around you, you get really lonely. And that's seldom the recipe for a good life. So I think the client we most like to work with and help are companies who have products that create real value for their customers. And that's also why that there's company out there which we would never help selling their products, because basically their products are shit. They are not creating real value. And so again, I think our tools and our methods are so powerful that it takes some responsibility for people like us to decide who to train and not to train.
With great powers comes great responsibility, right?
So if you have shitty products that basically is not good for customers, then stay away. If you have something which actually create value and you would like to help more, we can help you do that. That's basically our mission.
That's perfect, because we only have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So I hope that that gives a general overview, basically. But I also want to say that, for me at least, you're very inspiring in the words that come out of your mouth. But also I've seen it more up close, and what it takes to actually learn and implement these insights into your own life. And a lot of people, they want quick fixes. and if you go for quick fixes, then you might stay in the problem-solving mode. But if you want to create real lasting change, you need to and want to invest a little bit more. But I guess also the benefits that you reap will be much more beneficial. And that reminds me of the book right there, The Positive Activists. If you want to put a few words into that before we round off, because that is a perspective that I really like, that can change the way that we put our whole strategy of an organization together. Because a positive activist, if you want to put it to words to yourself, Henrik, what is the general distinction here?
I think a positive activist is a customer that's so happy that they come back and bring their friends. And I think if you want an organization with more positive activists, also happy customers, the shortest way to get there is to make sure that the salespeople, the marketing people, the R&D people, the people in the organization are already positive activists on behalf of the organization they're working within. But to do that, it really demands a different kind of leadership. Because in a way, you need to understand how to lead people in a way where you set them free to do the right thing. And basically don't ask them to do what you could call bullshit jobs. And again, that's easier said than done. And I would say that it doesn't have to take that long. And for most people, it often takes some unlearning so that they can stop to do what's actually not producing value, so that they can start to do more of what actually produces value. Not just today or tomorrow, but also next month, next year. And I think what I would like to see more in business going forward is leadership teams who have the courage to not only think about the next quarter, but think about the next 5 years. Not as an excuse of not doing things now, but to take the information from 5 years in the future and bring it in to help you make higher quality decisions about where to focus today.
Sounds motivating.
It's not only motivating, it's also in a way it relax and activate the system in the same time.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes left now, and want to wrap things up because we don't have any more time. But I think that we came across a bunch of the stuff that I believe can be useful for everyone out there. And if you want to learn more, these guys have been practicing how to teach people this for 30 years. And personally, I can say that he's very good at it. So what should people do from here on out, Henrik, if they want more of this stuff?
I think again, they can go online. I think on our YouTube channels there are some small videos they can look at. They can buy our books, and then they can sign up for our trainings. We have some online virtual trainings on Zoom. Every month we have our personal leadership program. We start next time the 1st of October, and again in March. So again, reach out, send us an email or
give us a call, whatever.
Yeah. And then we'll be more than happy to help you find out whether what we have is actually for you or not.
Nice. Well, I'll wrap it up with that. On that note, get some more coffee maybe. Maybe you need some as well. Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching and tuning in today. And we're going to do more of this because Henrik and I enjoy it. And hopefully we can get some feedback from you guys as well on what kind of topics you'd like us to go in on. But generally we just want to share this with as many people as possible because we know it works.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.